Joining us now is Illinois Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, I want to begin by getting your thoughts about today's attack and what more you're hearing about what happened today.
Well, first of all, our hearts go out to the troops at the airport, especially the families of the fallen. They were doing their duty even as they knew that they were targets, potential targets of an attack. The second thing is we have to go after those who perpetrated this attack. We can't assume that these attacks are over at this point. And going to the point of intelligence, I think at this point we're going to have to work with the Taliban to go after our common enemy. And I think the third thing that I would just say is we're going to have to also work on other ways to evacuate people, Americans from the country, because quite frankly, our troops aren't designed to be guarding such an airport in such an urbanized environment where they are basically sitting targets at this point.
Attacks on U.S. troops was a main reason that President Biden decided to stick with that August 31st deadline, as we understand it, to finish the withdrawal from Afghanistan. What's your view on that deadline? Should that now be extended in the wake of today's attacks?
So at this point, I would probably defer to what the military on the ground is telling the president. And if they believe that the 31st is really the time for them to leave in light of what's going on, then perhaps we should abide by their judgment. On the other hand, we have to get all Americans out of there and others. And so that's why we're going to have to be very, very practical at this point, working with the Taliban and finding other avenues to get people out. So, for instance, Bagram Air Base, I wish we had not evacuated it in the order in which we did, is a much more secure facility to take Americans out of the country. It would obviously require the Taliban to work with us on getting people out of there. But that might be another avenue in addition to the airport at this point. We have to be very practical.
You know, one of the big criticisms of President Biden's plan to withdraw from Afghanistan was that the country would once again become a safe haven for terror groups like al-Qaeda, like ISIS. Are the attacks today, in your mind, an indication that will be the case, that this will become a breeding ground for terrorism again?
I'm very concerned about this. And I think that we know that al-Qaeda has been significantly degraded. And of course, al-Qaeda was the source of the attacks on 9/11 and why we originally went to Afghanistan. However, ISIS-K in this particular instance could use Afghanistan as a base to launch attacks. And so we have to continue our counter-terrorism mission there and work with our regional partners to make that happen. And also probably work with the Taliban potentially, although obviously that's an unusual arrangement, but one where we would be going after a common enemy.
You know, some of your Republican colleagues have gone on TV today and said that these attacks were completely avoidable and a sign that President Biden's withdrawal plan has failed, they've said. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's a little bit opportunistic for some of my colleagues to criticize the withdrawal from Afghanistan by President Biden when they were silent when Donald Trump initiated this withdrawal deal. On the other hand, at this point, there's going to be a lot of time after August 31st to criticize the way in which we are evacuating. Right now, I think all of us are just, especially myself, are thinking about those troops at the airport, those brave men and women who have to guard and evacuate Americans and others. We have to do everything we can to support them. And so that's kind of where I believe that our energy has to be directed right now.
All right, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, we appreciate your time today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.